The Illuminate Arts and Faith Conference in Chattanooga, Tennessee wants to help you find your tribe. Do you get way too excited about quoting Wendell Berry or C.S. Lewis in conversations with coworkers? Does your Spotify playlist include hymns, a little jazz, and a whole lot of Andrew Peterson? Join your tribe at Illuminate March 31 and April 1 for education and inspiration from speakers Russ Ramsey, Douglas McKelvey, John Hendricks, and others. Find a complete list of session topics and ticket information at southern.edu/illuminate.
In 2024, I set out to meet as many poets as I could and spend an hour with each one. I got more than I bargained for, more insight, more clarity, more hope. It's proved to be one of the richest highlights of my life. 17 writers, 17 deeply human conversations that made me sit up and pay attention. Franz Kafka once said, if the book we're reading doesn't wake us up with a blow to the head, what are we reading for? A book must be the axe for the frozen sea within us. And that's what I hope this new book will do. I hope it wakes us up, my friends. I hope these conversations will be the catalyst for something to be reawakened, re-enchanted, and reinvigorated. It's called An Axe for the Frozen Sea, Conversations with Poets About What Matters Most. I'm Ben Palpin, and I hope you'll come and listen in as I spend a little time with poets like Lucy Shaw, Malcolm Guite, Dana Gioia, and Lee Young Lee. Pull up a chair at the table as we dig into what it means to write well and to live well. An Axe for the Frozen Sea is now available from Rabbit Room Press. Visit the store at rabbitroom.com, or better yet, ask about it at your favorite bookseller.
At the Rabbit Room, we're always saying that art nourishes community and community nourishes art. Here's another way to say the same thing. We can all be allies in bringing good, beautiful, true things into the world. One way you can be an ally with the musicians and writers and artists whose work you care about is to leave a review. It helps other people find and benefit from the work that has meant something to you. And if you want to leave a review for this podcast, well, that'll be okay too. Welcome to the Habit Podcast, conversations with writers about writing. I'm Jonathan Rogers, your host. Ron Block is a banjo player and an amateur theologian. I'm using amateur in its original sense of a person who does what he does out of mere love. I suppose by that definition he's an amateur banjo player, but he's also a professional banjo player. He's a longtime member of Alison Krauss's band Union Station. He also appears in the movie Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? I'll include a link to his scene in the show notes. Ron Block, I am so excited to have you on The Habit. I love hearing you talk about creativity. You, of my friends, you're one of the ones who thinks the most deeply and speaks most articulately about the creative process, thinking it through all the way into the sort of theological. So it was really something I wanted to do was just to get you on this podcast so these listeners could hear some of your insights about creativity. So thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me, Jonathan.
You came to a creative writing class that I taught last year, and you talked to the students about a couple of a healthy cycle and an unhealthy cycle with creativity, and I would just love to hear you talk about some of that.
I've done a lot of work in this area because I play music is primarily what I do, and I'm always looking for how to get better at it. And one of the things that I found was that my beliefs about my ability determine the results of my practicing.
Huh. Yeah.
And I can expand on this a little bit. I dug into the research of Carol Dweck, who is a professor of psychology at Stanford University, and she did research into what she calls the fixed mindset and the growth mindset.
Yeah. Helena Sorensen talked about this in her episode a few weeks ago, so I'll link to that in the show notes.
Yeah. And So she says, Carol Dweck says, in a fixed mindset, students believe that their basic abilities, their intelligence, their talents are just fixed traits. They have a certain amount and that's that. And then their goal becomes to look smart all the time and never look dumb. In a growth mindset, students understand that their talents and abilities can be developed through effort, good teaching, and persistence. They don't necessarily think everyone's the same or anyone can be Einstein, but they believe everyone can get smarter if they work at it. So that's one aspect. Like, I've had to realize in myself what aspects of my consciousness hold a fixed mindset, where I was told things maybe when I was young that, you know, our family's not good at this, or you know, whatever those things may be in each person.
Yeah, so it's not that Ron has a fixed mindset, it's that Ron has a fixed mindset in this area, and this other area might have a growth mindset.
Totally. Yeah. So it's not just one thing.
And would you suggest it's you need to have a growth mindset in every area of life? Yeah,
every area. You know, really, I mean, that's really what the growth is all about. It's learning those areas where you go, I need to grow there, first of all. And then you got to believe you can grow there. Mm-hmm. And then you start growing. But it has to do with believing that you can is the first order of business. Right? Yeah. And so I've had to do a lot of work in certain areas of my musicality, certain areas of my daily life with people, you know, and start believing the right things. So another thing I was going to bring up was the 4-minute mile was considered impossible until one Englishman broke it in 1954. And then 2 months later, this guy, Bannister, he was competing against a guy named John Landy. Bannister beat Landy, but then Landy made the mile in under 4 minutes.
So Bannister was the first one to break the 4-minute mile.
Bannister was the first one, and then Landy made the mile in under 4 minutes. So all of a sudden you went bam, bam, 2 people did it in under 4 minutes. Mm-hmm. And then Jim Ryan became the first high school runner to break 4 minutes. And in 94, an Irish runner became the first man over the age of 40 to break the 4-minute barrier. So my question is, what changed in 1954? Did people suddenly become stronger and faster after thousands of years? Like, you know, the answer is no. The answer is somebody did it, and then other people went, wow, I can do that. So the belief changed about whether a 4-minute mile was possible, and then all of a sudden you see this onrush of certain personality types going, I'm going to do that too. Yeah. And, you know, that's really the mechanism behind, at least in my own life, of seeing musicians play when I was young. Yeah. Seeing music, I saw Lester Flatt on TV, and I saw the banjo player, and it was Haskell McCormick, and I just went, I want a banjo. I have to have a banjo. Dad, can I have a banjo? Dad, will you get me a banjo? You know, I was 12 years old, and I just wouldn't stop. Yeah. And so, but then he got me one, and he says I didn't come out of my room till I was 21. Right. But that's the first thing, is just that
changed mindset.
That changed mindset of seeing the thing.
Did you know when you were growing up? Did you know anybody who ran a marathon?
Not really. I don't
That seemed like the most outlandish thing in the world. I'd see on television people who run a marathon. I was like, what? Yeah. And now, people run marathons all the time.
It's fairly common. Yeah.
All right. Well, that's not super relevant to the conversation, but I thought about it whenever you were talking about this. I mean, a marathon just seemed like the most important. You had to be some sort of Superman to run a marathon when I was growing up. Yeah. And now you just have to be a person. Yeah.
That goes, I want to run a marathon. And then they get the app that says, you know, couch potato to marathon in 3 weeks.
Yeah, right. Oh, yeah. I need that app.
Me too. Yeah.
Okay, so new mindset, but I think there's more to it than just, I think the 4-minute mile is possible, so now I'm going to go do it.
Right. Now, and again, I'll use myself as an example because that's what I know.
Yeah, sure.
Like, I know my own mindset. So when I was learning to play music, my early mindset about playing music and banjo and guitar and singing and every aspect of it, I didn't even question, can I do this? It wasn't even like in my mind. All I thought was, this is amazing, and then I want to do it because it's amazing. And so there was no interim question, can I do this? It was just, I already had this assumption that I could I could do it. I didn't even ask if I could get good at it. I just knew I could.
And did you keep that attitude?
I did. In some ways I did. In other ways, well-meaning, authority figures in my life would say things like, how do you know you're ever going to make a living? And how are you going to own a home? How are you going to raise a family? And that kind of stuff puts things especially when it's a young man going into, or a young woman going out into life pretty soon. I think I was about 15 or 16 when I started talking about doing it for a living. And it puts things in your consciousness when people say stuff like that. I think what it did to me was make me go, maybe I'm not good. Maybe I don't have enough talent. So maybe it gave me a little bit of the fixed mindset, which came into play later. It didn't bear fruit right then, but it started to because and it started to for the reason I'll show you what I call the try harder cycle.
Yeah. That's really that's the whole reason I invited you onto this podcast. this try harder cycle. I think it's really interesting.
Okay, so now I want to put this in different terms for a second. If you think of, let's say, an introverted man whose wife wants him to go to a party, and he doesn't want to go to a party because he has the belief no one likes me. Okay, so the man has a desire for connection and to be liked. So that's the bottom. If you think of a stack, if you think of something stacked from the bottom to the top, this is what I'm talking about. So he has a desire for connection at the bottom. That's part of our wiring as human beings. And then he believes a lie. No one likes me, or people won't like me. And then, so over top of that, he has the fear, I'll be rejected, right? So he doesn't want to go to the party, but his wife makes him go to the party. And so this fear brings a desire to control. I'll try to be funny, or I'll just be quiet, or he'll have some way of, or I'll just not care. There'll be some way in which he tries to control what he fears from happening. So he doesn't want to be rejected, so he'll do a preemptive strike and reject other people, or whatever the thing is. Or he'll try too hard to be funny. So then there's tension, because when you try to be funny, you're not funny. You ever see people that try too hard to be funny? They're it's not, lots of times it's not that funny. So then what happens at the party? He stands around, he tries to be funny, and people go, well, yeah, he's a nice enough guy, and they kind of move away after a few minutes, and then he goes home going, see, nobody likes me. So it reinforces that belief, and then the next time it happens again. But the problem is not the desire for connection. The problem is the lie that no one likes me. So you put the lie before the fear? Yeah, because that's what stimulates the fear. The lie down there is the thing that's kind of fueling, I'm going to be rejected. Because if he had a desire for connection, and then the second thing in the stack was, people basically like me. Some people might not, but people basically think I'm a decent guy and like me. And if he had that in there, he wouldn't really deal with that fear. I
guess I'm just asking: is it an important point? Maybe this isn't super important point one way or another, but I could imagine somebody making that stack and saying the fear generates the lie. Because I've got this fear and insecurity, then that fear itself generates a lie. Well, in your point, it's the lie then generates fear.
It's actually both, and I'm not sure maybe which came first.
Those two are related somehow.
Yeah, because what happens is it's a cycle. So it stacks desire for connection or be loved, the lie, no one likes me, control or fear, I'll be rejected, control, I'll try to be funny, and then the tension is that it brings is I'm not funny. People don't laugh. And then it's a capped social ability. It puts a lid on his social ability, and then it reinforces the lie. It goes, see, no one likes me. So it all kind of works together. So when you apply this kind of thing to creativity, I would put it like this. And since this is about writing, we'll make this about writing. So if I have a desire, let's say I want to write. I love writing. I want to write. And then secondly, have a lie. Writing is so hard. It's so hard. And that may have come through experience or whatever, or somebody telling you that it's super hard, or worrying about writer's block or any of that kind of stuff. So writing is so hard. That's the lie. And then the fear that it stimulates is I may not have enough talent.
Yeah.
Maybe other people have way more talent than me and it's a lot easier. So you procrastinate and avoid, and then the tension is not writing things that you love because you're avoiding it, or you're trying too hard. I mean, one thing in music that kills a performance or a recording or anything is the musician trying too hard. I mean, occasionally you see somebody sing the national anthem, and it's like I always go, can you just sing the melody? Yeah. It's a beautiful melody. And you don't have to try so hard to impress everybody, because it doesn't impress me. It makes me go, you're trying to impress everybody. Yeah. So I would rather just hear somebody get up there and sing their heart and sing the words and sing the melody.
I think I heard Jack Black sing the national anthem not too long ago. I don't know if you saw that. And it's like just a guy singing it straight. I was like, when was the last time I saw somebody sing it straight?
Sing it straight, right.
It was very nice.
You're there to sing the national anthem, not to get them to think you're a great singer. Yeah. One of the things that really helped me was spending a lot of time writing songs with Rebecca Reynolds. And she would always just go, she would just say, if I was trying to come up with a melody, she'd say, you're losing the image. It just feels like you're trying to write a melody instead of like thinking about what this is about. Huh. And so I would have gotten off of, let's say we were writing a song about Ireland, and I would have gotten off of that image, and instead I was going, where does the melody go? I can't seem to make it go where I want to. Well, my attention's off of the feeling that's in the song. Mm-hmm. And if my attention's on the wrong thing and on trying hard, then it kind of closes off the machine. And it's just like an athlete. A runner doesn't start a race and go, okay, I'm getting ready to go, and they're counting it off. The runner doesn't go, and then tense up his whole body. Yeah. He gets loose, he stretches, and it's like he makes sure he's in a place mentally, emotionally, physically, where he's loose and ready for anything. Yeah. And he has his mind on the right things. Yeah. Instead of I've got to try really hard. It's I love running and I'm going to kick everybody's butt. Yeah. Right? It's like so there's this real element of positivity that has to be introduced where that lie is. Instead of like just ruminating on how hard writing is all the time, we should be thinking how much we love writing, and how much we love reading, and how much great writers have moved us, and how when we write, that's what we want to do for other people. Mm-hmm. We want to give them an experience. Yeah, right? Yeah. I'm interested in your choice of the lie being writing is hard. I mean, writing is hard, right? I mean, I don't think that's a lie. I think it is. I think editing is hard. Huh. Okay. No, but I use that because translated from music is hard. Music is not hard. Writing, if I said to you, write me a sentence, any sentence, you could write a sentence in 3 seconds. Sure. And I'd say, right, make it a little more interesting, and you can make it a little more interesting. Okay. Right? Yeah. It's not hard at all. But if you're thinking in terms of writing and saying, I've got to write the greatest novel in the history of mankind, well, all of a sudden you're under pressure, yeah. Right? Yeah. And I tell this to students when I teach guitar and banjo workshops. I'll do these workshop weeks. And one of the things that I do is I put my banjo on. It's one of the first things I say is I go, okay, I want everybody to watch this. And I wish I had the visual here, but I don't. But I have my banjo on, and I say, because I see people with all this tension in their arms and hands, and I say, put your hands by your sides. Now watch me. And I have my hands by my sides, and then I lift up my left hand to the neck of the banjo, and I just kind of plop it on there. And then I lift my right hand and put it over the top of the banjo on the strings and just kind of plop it on there. And I go, that's proper hand position. Like where you don't have tension in your shoulders and just everything is... And then I play one note. I go, is this hard? I'll say play a note with your thumb on the third string, just open note, G note, and they go blang blang blang. I go, is that hard? And they go, no. I go, that's how you play banjo, just like that. It's done brick by brick. Mm-hmm. You learn it brick by brick, and if you learn the bricks and realize that each brick is easy, mm-hmm. then the rest of it becomes easier and easier. So if you start out with the lie, even writing is hard. Mm-hmm. If you start there, it's going to just get harder and harder.
Yeah.
But if you have sometimes we have to reset. I've had to reset stuff in myself in playing and tell myself that this is easy. That I have all the dexterity I need. It's like telling yourself, like if you're writing, just going for a walk and going, you know what? God has given me all the mental acuity that I could possibly need, all the imagination I could possibly need to write a story. And it's not that hard. It's not.
Yeah.
I mean, you can tell yourself.
That's true. We tell
stuff.
Stories all the time.
Yeah.
And I'm always telling people, when it comes to you also have all the words you know. Like people don't need to know more words. If you're a first grader, you might probably need to know more words than you know. But if you're a grown up, you know the words. You don't need a dictionary. You don't need a thesaurus. Right. If you're going to the thesaurus, you're.
So it doesn't pay to enrich your word power necessarily.
It does not. It certainly doesn't pay to enrich your word power in the middle of the work you're trying to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway. Move it. All right, so how do I get out of this cycle? How do I get out of this fear cycle?
I think what has to happen, I'll go back to my own experience. What has had to happen for me, and it's one of the things that Rebecca really helped me with, was just stopping believing that everything was so hard. Like writing songs is hard. Oh, it's so hard. Mm-hmm. Oh, I got stuck. Oh, I don't know what to do. Well, my way when I got stuck was like get a sledgehammer and try to smash my way through the brick wall. Uh-huh. Instead of like going a gentler way and going, I wonder if there's a way around this wall. I wonder if the wall's even there.
Yeah.
It could be just a mental outpicturing of a wall that I'm thinking is there. Mm-hmm. Right? So that's one of the things she taught me. And so what I've come to see, and especially in my identity as a person, but also in music and my identity as a musician, as a player, is I have to tell myself that if I come upon a hard bit, if I'm learning a Django Reinhardt lick or something and it's tough, I have to stop. If I start trying too hard, I go, you have all the dexterity you need to learn this.
Yeah.
All you need to do is listen to it, get it in your head, and then play it. And where you mess up, you just have to observe unemotionally and not try harder and figure out where that little bit is where you're screwing up. It's like, so what if you put truth in where that lie is? What happens to the stack? It goes desire, and then you put truth in the inward parts. Uh-huh. You put truth in yourself and a growth mindset. And then you end up with faith and confidence instead of fear. Uh-huh. So then you move forward in faith and confidence, and you have an enjoyment of the process. Mm-hmm. So you're enjoying it, and then also you have a sense of just, like I get this when I'm practicing, this observation, where before when I would practice and I'd keep messing something up, I would get frustrated and sometimes try harder. Yeah. Well, now I go, well, that's weird. I have all the dexterity I could possibly need. Why do I keep messing this up? Let me look and see what's happening. Let me do it slowly. Mm-hmm. And then I go, oh, my third finger, when I push down on my fourth finger, my third finger moves too far away from the string. And so let me see if I can get it to stop doing that. And it's just sheer observation. And that observation, the ability to observe without being all emotionally overwrought, comes from that sort of confident faith attitude that I have what it takes.
Yeah.
Instead of thinking this is too hard for me, or I don't have enough dexterity, or whatever the deal is.
Yeah, and in so many, where do we even get the idea that that getting a chord or a note wrong reflects badly on you as a person, or writing a bad sentence.
Yeah,
you know, I mean, it doesn't mean you're an idiot. It doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you. It just means you wrote a bad sentence.
Yep.
In my teaching, so often, I get the pleasure of getting to show somebody, hey, that's a bad sentence. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Or sometimes this whole essay is a mess. That's okay.
Yeah.
Go write the next essay.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, in school, we learn in school to write, and so if you write a C essay,
it's a big red mark.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and if you write an essay that's a C or a D, then that's going to mess you up.
Yeah.
But the truth is, in real life, you write a bad essay. I write bad essays.
Throw it away.
Throw it away.
Yeah.
Go do another one.
My daughter would be practicing piano, in the library. We have a piano in there, and she'd be in there practicing this. I started doing this, she was about 13, 14. Uh-huh. Stick my head in, and she'd be trying to play a passage maybe that was a little fast, and she'd mess up, and I go, hey, Erica, and she'd say, yeah, Dad. I go, just remember, when you make a mistake, it means you're a bad person. And then she'd laugh and go, thanks, Dad. But made the point. It made the point for her that it's like, don't connect your personhood with making a mistake. Mm-hmm. Don't do that. And that's where this cycle, the bad part of this cycle really goes bad, is when you connect your identity with your performance. Yeah. And then you're getting your identity from your performance, and then your performance is bad. Then your identity, your perception of your identity goes bad. Mm-hmm. Then your performance gets worse. Yeah. And then it just keeps feeding this negative cycle until you're depressed and angry and whatever the thing is. I think that's where a lot of problems come from in people. I mean, I know that just from my own mind.
It can be hard to separate.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
You may have actually did this, I think, at a seminar that I taught at your barn. So you may have been there. But one of my favorite things to do in a seminar is I've got a pair of essays written by somebody, or stories written by somebody in subsequent weeks.
Yep.
First one's terrible.
Yep.
And the second one, really good.
Yeah.
Same person, 1 week apart.
Yeah.
Because this bad story doesn't mean she's a bad writer. It just means that particular story is bad. Yep. And it may be fixable, it may not be. And I guess you have to decide, is this thing that I wrote that's not good, is it worth
salvaging
fixing,
or changing,
or is it worth just moving on? And that's that requires some discernment. That's not always easy.
Yeah.
But I love showing people this thing that wasn't any good was written by a good writer, because look what she did next week.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
was it Dillard that said "kill your darlings"? Was that?
I don't know where that originated. Yeah,
I like that.
Yeah,
I like that. You have to do that in music sometimes too. I love that what I played on guitar there, but I got to take it off because it doesn't fit.
Right, and it's your darling. Again, that's a matter of you wrapping some sort of sense of self into this thing.
Exactly.
And I don't want to kill it. It doesn't serve. It doesn't serve the work. It doesn't serve my audience or my reader.
Yep.
But I like it because I like the way it makes me feel.
Right.
That's just the other side of the coin of this is bad, so that makes me feel bad.
Right.
Oh.
Yeah. So the just to recap, so on the writing side of this, I have the stack is desire. I love to write.
Yep.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
The truth. I'm a writer. I love writing. Writing is easy for me. I can get better at it. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And then that gives you faith and confidence. And now it's not going to happen the first day you tell yourself that. Your mind is going to go, no, you're not.
Yeah.
You're not a good writer. It's hard for you, and it's going to happen. But the thing is to just it's at the bottom level of yourself. You just keep telling yourself, I can get better at this. I can do this.
Yeah.
I can grow. I can learn. I can study writing. I can study great writers. I can read. I can grow.
Yeah.
So then the next thing that comes is faith and confidence. That begins to come, and then you keep, of course, practicing writing. It doesn't mean you don't work on technique. It's not a magic formula, And then there's an enjoyment of the process, even the hard bits.
Yeah.
You kind of enjoy, okay, this is a challenge, but this is easy for me, so it's a challenge, so I'm going to get through it.
Yeah.
And then there's freedom and ease, and you have spontaneity, and then there's a released ability. Mm-hmm. Your ability gets the cap taken off of it.
Yeah.
And then there's a reinforcement of truth. I'm a writer. So that the truth
gets a virtuous cycle instead of
it's like it flips the cycle into a positive cycle. And then, I really think this is the source of a lot of great musicians and great writers and all those, where they may have struggles in a lot of other areas. And even some great writers or musicians may sometimes have self-doubt. But I think at root, a lot of them have this sort of strong belief in what they're doing and what they're supposed to do. And they still have doubts about, is this record good enough, or that kind of thing. But their essential setting is not, I'm no good, and very few musicians that I have known have that setting that are really good musicians. They don't have the setting of, I'm not very good.
I don't see how you could possibly.
It doesn't produce anything good, and it's it's true in the spiritual realm too. You can't be kind and compassionate and loving and self-giving if you believe at root you're selfish and ugly and horrible. It's like you can't do both things. It just won't work. Or it'll only work to a degree. It'll be the effort cycle. So.
Right. Yeah. So I want to ask a couple of things. No, actually, I think I just want to ask one thing about this. The what do you call it? The growth cycle. The growth cycle. That stack and that virtuous cycle. Works on the assumption that the truth must be good news rather than bad news.
Right.
Okay.
It does, and I do have this kind of inherent belief that nearly anybody can be good at nearly anything, especially if they start fairly young. But I've come to see that I can really improve at certain things. Even I'm 55, even at my age, if I just go, I'm going to improve at this because I can, and it's powerful. Faith is generative. It generates action and motion, and so faith creates more desire, and allows desire to be fully formed, and then we move forward in that desire.
Yeah, if you don't mind my correcting you on something that you've thought a lot more about than I have. Correcting is not the right word, but you said almost anybody can be good at almost anything. I think it might be more helpful to say almost anybody can get better at almost anything.
That's probably
because good that you end up having to compare.
Right.
And with growth, all you've got to compare. All you really have to compare is with what you were yesterday.
Yes, and that's a better way of phrasing it. Yeah. That's great.
But so the assumption in the growth cycle is that when I tell the truth is good news, which is as Christian people, that's something we believe anyway.
Yeah, hopefully.
And there's no need to over spiritualize this, but just the truth is reality is the only place of all the ways we have to avoid reality. Reality is the only place where we can actually be happy, be successful, have a good
right.
And so reality is always good news.
Yeah. It's being present in the moment and actually living it.
Yeah. And one thing I'm always telling writers that's relevant to what you're saying is that getting better as a writer is probably not going to be a function of trying harder.
Yeah.
It's probably going to be a matter of clearing away all those habits, many of which are habits of trying harder, and getting back to what it is that you. We all know how to use language.
Yeah. We use it every day.
Yep. And so much, the hard work of writing is often the work of clearing away, not bearing down and trying harder.
Musical technique is exactly the same thing.
I'm not surprised
there was
to hear
a time where I was not always vigilant with my technique. I had great technique early on because I was always just observing, going, I wonder why I can't play that. Oh, okay, then I fixed it. Great. And so my fingers stayed close to the strings and all that technique stuff. But years of gigging and recording and being focused on the product sometimes more than the process, that's where I started to get little bits. I mean,
Yeah.
my technique has never been bad, but there's
Right.
been little bits where now I'm looking at things going, that came from effort.
Yeah.
That came from playing too hard
Yeah.
on those gigs where you couldn't hear yourself. And that came from, just various, it was mainly effort
Yeah.
that causes all those problems.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's trying too hard. And then when you push too hard on a string with your finger, like let's say your index finger on your right hand, and you pluck the string really hard, well, your finger goes too far. And then you have to stop it. You have to stop the force. So you're using just way more force than is necessary. And it causes a lot more movement than is necessary, especially then when you go to place quieter. Your finger still wants to move that far. So it takes a while to retrain. And I tell people in camps and workshops that I do that your fingers are amoral. They just do what they're told.
Yeah.
They don't have any concept of right and wrong. So whatever you train them to do is what they're going to do. And it's probably true with the mind and writing as well.
Yeah.
The mind is probably just does what you train it to do.
Yeah. Okay, I know you brought a poem that I loved. You'd read it in my creative writing class, and so I would love for you to share that now, if you would.
Yeah, great. It's called The Archer, and it's from The Way of Chuang Tzu by Thomas Merton. I'll just read it here. When an archer is shooting for fun, he has all his skill. If he shoots for a brass buckle, he is already nervous. If he shoots for a prize of gold, he goes blind, or sees two targets. He is out of his mind. His skill has not changed, but the prize divides him. He cares. He thinks more of winning than of shooting, and the need to win drains him of power. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a powerful one.
Yeah. For some reason, that poem makes me think of Tiger Woods.
Well, I think it's true. It's true in sports. It's true in music. It's true in any kind of creative activity, or probably business as well.
Sure.
It's that having. Well, it's like if I'm playing when I was young and I was playing in bands, and somebody like some banjo player that I admired came up and suddenly was watching us play. Suddenly, there's something at stake, and then I need to impress them or whatever the thing is, and then I'm not in the present moment.
Yeah.
I'm not enjoying playing. Instead,
And
I'm
the reward
worried
is
about
not what it was. The reward of making music is the music.
is making it.
Yeah.
That's it. It's not listen. Like when I make a record, when I'm finished making the record, I barely listen to it anymore. Once in a while, I'll put it on like 3 years later and go, oh yeah, that was fun.
Yeah.
But like the making of it is for me,
Yeah.
and the listening is for other people.
That's interesting.
So in the present moment, if I'm not present when I'm making the music, I'm wasting my time.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're running out of time. Last question I always ask: who are the writers who make you want to write?
One of the first books or series of books that I remember reading was the Chronicles of Narnia.
Yeah.
And I've always talked about those. And in them, I encountered goodness and real holiness, which is kindness and loyalty and compassion and stick-to-itiveness and all those great virtues that are in those books. Those are big in my life. And George MacDonald his stories are fantastic. But sometimes I love the didactic bits. He'll stick these little bits in there that are like, it's like a little bit of a sermon. But I mean, it's just stuff that sticks in my head. Like, he that would be a hero will barely be a man.
Wow.
These little bits of wisdom where you go, wow, yeah, if I'm worried about being a hero instead of just like washing the dishes, then I'm off the mark.
Yeah.
Anyway, so there's these little bits. So he makes me... Writers like that make me want to write things that benefit whoever they'll benefit.
Yeah.
And a lot of what I write has to do with, like that kind of thing. Like it's more, my writing often is more the didactic or the...
Your non-songwriting, your essays.
My non-songwriting, yeah. And even my songs, my older songs, a lot of them are more truth in song form than a story. Through Rebecca Reynolds, I've got more interested in the story aspect of it.
Yeah. All right, Ron, thanks so much. I always love hearing you talk about the creative process. I always learn something.
Thanks for having me, Jonathan. Appreciate it.
The Rabbit Room has partnered with Lipscomb University to make this podcast possible. Lipscomb has graciously given us access to their recording studio and the Center for Entertainment and Arts building. We're so grateful for their sponsorship, their encouragement, and the good work they do in Nashville. Special shout out as well to the Arcadian Wild for allowing us to use their delightful song Finch in the Pantry as part of this podcast. Check out their album of the same name for more excellent music.
The Habit membership is a library of resources for writers by me, Jonathan Rogers. More importantly, The Habit is a hub of community where like-minded writers gather to discuss their work and give each other a little more courage. Find out more at thehabit.co.
This podcast was produced by The Rabbit Room, a 501c3 nonprofit dedicated to fostering Christ-centered community and spiritual formation through music, story, and art. All our podcasts are made possible by the generous support of our members. To learn more about us, visit rabbitroom.com, and to become a member, rabbitroom.com/donate.
If you've enjoyed this podcast episode, consider joining the Rabbit Room membership. Your membership helps sustain this community, funding everything from publishing and podcasts and theater productions to events and programs that support artists who create with a Christ-centered vision. We'd love to have you on board. Learn more at rabbitroom.com/member.